Hey, what's up guys? John here. The real estate market nationwide is about to go through a massive change. Whether you're a real estate investor or you plan to be, pay very, very close attention to what's happening. This just went into law today in Los Angeles, and it's going to be a complete game changer for property ownership. This is also happening now in New York City and many other cities all throughout America, and it's going to continue to trickle in over the next 3 to 6 to 12 months. So if you're thinking about getting into real estate, pay attention to this because this is absolutely a game changer. This is going to change everything we know about real estate investing in America. Please hit the like button. When you hit the like button, YouTube will share this content to educate other people about what's really going on in the U.S. housing market. And if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, which we are in, we'd love to help fix your credit at greatcreditfast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, you have anything impacting your credit score, holding your score down, get a hold of us. One late payment can drop your score upwards of 180 points. So you can go from basically an 800 credit score to being in the mid 600s over one little discrepancy, one little issue. Get a hold of us. Don't miss this massive wealth transfer we're about to enter at greatcreditfast.com. Take a look at this. Crackdown, California, on embodied carbon, right? Embodied carbon. So earlier this month, the California Building Standard Commission unanimously approved amendments to the Green Building Code approved last year. The changes go into effect July, so less than a year from now, and apply to commercial buildings over 100,000 square feet and school projects over 50,000 square feet. Now, many people might say, hey, John, that's not going to be residential. Hold that thought for a second and look at what they're saying here. So how they're going to do this is they say you can purchase carbon offsets, so you can buy carbon offsets, or you can do this. So embodied carbon refers to emissions from building materials. Right here, the new building code lays out 3 paths to compliance according to the AIA California. One, incentive building reuse, where compliance can be achieved by utilizing 45% of an existing structure. The other compliance options are based on using low emission materials or by conducting a whole building life cycle assessment. Right? There's no easy way of getting out of this. And so you start to look at what's happening with commercial real estate. A place like Los Angeles is a very unique market because people pay a lot of money for property there. They're buying properties on 3, 4, 5% returns. A lot of people locked in really inexpensive debt, 3.5%, 4%. Now they're going to have to refinance in an environment with the 7, 7.5%, 8% mortgages. So you think about it. They're stepping into all these new costs and they're at the refi in this current mortgage rate environment. And rents are starting to sag, vacancies are going up, property taxes and insurance are continuing to increase. It's going to be a bloodbath. And they know it. They know it. Because right here, they say California must build 2.5 million homes by 2030 to avoid exacerbating homeless crisis, report finds, right? They've been talking about adding millions of units. How do you add 2.5 million housing units in 7 years, right? Mass repurposing of commercial property. That's how you do it. Shopping centers, storage units, skyscrapers. They're going to start repurposing buildings all throughout the country. But you watch Los Angeles, you watch New York City, because look at what happened here in Ithaca. And I reported on this about 2 years ago, talking about this. They said local governments are best positioned to lead on buildings. A big reason why cities have really emerged as leaders on decarbonization, particularly with buildings, is traditionally land use and developments has been more in the realm of state and local governments. They set building codes and have the levers, said Elizabeth Beardsley, Senior Policy Counsel at the U.S. Green Building Council. The cities are feeling the local impacts from climate too, and it's becoming more tangible and motivating. They are feeling the impacts and know that they have the levers to use, right? This is a really interesting case study of what they're doing in Ithaca, where they're basically decarbonizing the entire city, and they're doing this by funding the decarbonization from private equity companies, tapping into private investment for public climate projects. So private equity firms and institutional investors are lending money to private property owners, and then they're essentially getting a lien on their property to upgrade their properties, right? This is pretty crazy. It's happening all over Ithaca. It's happening in California right here. Even look, it says ballot measure, population, right? 2.5 million new housing units. 2.5 million housing units by 2030, the real deal. California governor signs 159 million to preserve 638 housing units, right? 30 million new homes by 2030, right? LinkedIn, right? All these different campaigns, right? Last year they wanted to push for 3.5 million housing units. All these campaigns are pushing to create a ton of new housing stock. And the big question is if you're a real estate investor and you purchase the deal at a 5% return and inventory picks up 10%, 15%, well, that's going to be a big problem. How are you going to maintain rents? You're not. Rents are likely going to continue to sag. As that begins to happen, a lot of property owners are going to be operating their buildings further and further into the negatives. So I think there's going to be a huge opportunity to make a lot of money in the distress. There really is. But if you look at Local Law 97, I think it's a really good case study, and I think it's very, very educational. So this Local Law 97 is coming into compliance, right, January 1st, 2024. So in about 3 months, right around the corner here, 4 months. So they say 3,500 properties could face $200 million in fines with penalties projected to hit $1 billion by 2035. $1 billion, right? Well, this is fascinating because they say that as of now, right here, as of now, 80% of residential buildings are already in compliance. So people are like, oh, okay, not bad. It's kind of like, something to worry about down the road. 15%, right? 15% will be in compliance without upgrades by 2030. So 85% of all buildings inside New York City are not going to meet these standards. So they're going to have to come out of pocket dramatically to do these upgrades. I mean, you're talking, I've looked at some of these buildings, you're talking about multi-million dollar annual fees to try to bring these properties into compliance. Fines on some of these buildings for not being in compliance, 7 figures, 8 figures. These are not small little parking ticket like fines. This is a big number. And when you look at some of these things like here on whitehouse.gov with this Inflation Reduction Act, what he talks about in this climate action, what he talks about significantly is the major investment that he wants to put all these billions of dollars into electrifying single-family properties, multifamily properties, and all properties throughout America. So it's a completely restructuring the electrical grid and how we assume and acquire and maintain power. So it's going to be very, very, very interesting. But I think it all kind of ties in very, very well to this here. So if you look at some of these funders and partners, you will see some very, very prominent names. UK government, Federal Ministry of Environmental, Nature, Conservation, and Nuclear Safety, Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Denmark. But you start to look at these names, everyone knows them. IKEA, L'Oreal, Oak, George here, FedEx, all these big names. You know that these people are not just, they're people of action, right? They're gonna see to it that this gets done. Hillary's here, World Bank, so very, very powerful individuals. And when you look at what their intent is by just simply clicking energy and buildings, you will see that it says implementing and enforcing building energy regulations and mandatory performance standards for existing buildings, including measures to reduce embodied emissions in buildings with benchmarking a whole life cycle emissions, incentivizing and implementing citywide actions towards grid decarbonization, which goes perfectly in line with this here. Everything is about the climate and grid decarbonization. And so you can start to see kind of how this whole thing plays out. And you look at some of our cities, and it's very clear that it's a lot of the big cities throughout America. Of course, you have LA and San Francisco, and you have Phoenix, Houston, you have Austin, New Orleans, you got Miami, Washington, D.C., Philly, New York City, Chicago, Portland, Seattle. So you can see all these cities are doing the same exact thing. And so you have to ask yourself, well, how is this going to happen? How is this going to happen? Well, they're going to first start off at the really, really big buildings. Same with New York City, 25,000, 50,000 square feet. In LA, they're starting at 100,000 square feet, and then it's going to slowly start to come down. It's going to be 15,000 square feet, 10,000 square feet. It's going to be, 2,500 square feet, and it's going to just hit all structures, right? That's what's ultimately going to happen. It's going to start as, 14 days, and then before you know it, it's a year, 2 years, 3 years, right? It's going to continue to do the same exact thing here with this decarbonization. And look, how to upgrade, and electrify millions of U.S. homes and buildings, right? So they already put $8.5 billion into this. Right now they're starting at, we're going to offer rebates. $8,000 here, $14,000 for these rebates. And how I think it's all going to work out is I think that they're just going to continue to increase the cost of energy, and the cost of energy is going to become unbearable for many, and people are going to be looking for other options, and those other options are likely going to be solar. It's going to be doing things in which they can reduce their energy costs. And then they're going to be presented with all these rebates, and then it's going to slowly kind of go like that. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. I think there's going to be a lot of change about to unfold in the residential and multifamily and commercial real estate market, both storage, industrial. I think all of these properties are going to go through a massive, massive, massive change. So smart and savvy investors are paying very, very close attention to Mortgage interest rates, they're paying attention to policy decisions. They are paying attention to everything that's happening inside of their market, because some of these markets can be much, much more extreme and strict in the short term than others. So if you are a real estate investor, you're looking to buy your first property, do not ignore the reality of what's actually happening, because ultimately you're going to lose money. The old saying is true. Smart people see things for how they really are, and everyone else sees things for how they want them to be. This is how things really are. Make a smart, forward-thinking decision based on fact. What do you think about this whole situation? Drop below, hit the like button, add me on IG, and if you want to fix your credit, you want to position yourself for the greatest wealth transfer of all time, you know where to go. GreatCreditFast.com, book a call down below. Don't let one negative item get in the way of a bright future. Go to GreatCreditFast.com. Catch you guys next video.